For many, Memorial Day is the official start of summer, kicked off with a parade and a celebration of the men and women who gave their lives so we could have the freedom to enjoy our own. But up until 1971, this day was simply known as Decoration Day. Meet us at the table as we unpack this important tradition. Welcome to the Steel Magnolias Podcast. We are two sisters here to have uplifting conversations about life in the South.
The South is full of beautiful diversity in landscape, people groups, and culture, and we want to showcase each part. We've got plenty of room at our table, so pull up your chair.
Welcome back to the table of the Steel Magnolias Podcast. I am your host, Laura Beth.
And I am her sister, Lainey.
Yes, and despite the sound of cicadas all around us, we are indoors, and we cannot help the sound of cicadas. So you know that we are recording this almost in real time because of cicada season.
That's true. It gives away the timing.
It does.
And we are gathered here at my kitchen table where we try to be faithful to serve y'all fun content.
Yes, absolutely. And with that being said, I wanted to take just a moment. We don't talk about this hardly ever on the podcast because who likes talking about financial things and budgets?
Ew, ick.
But we obviously have operating costs for this podcast, and expenses just continue to rise like everything else in this country.
True. And that's not even, that's not including paying us because that's not happening at all.
Yeah, we haven't gotten paid for this yet, but maybe one day. And I just wanted to ask for you as a listener to consider and think about, maybe mull over for a little bit. If you are enjoying this show, would you consider supporting the show with your finances in whatever means that looks like for you? We have a very easy way for you to do that, and I'll just put the link right in the show description for you to connect with that. There's different monetary amounts, or you can do a custom amount. You can do it one time, or you can do it reoccurring. But we used to use a platform called Patreon, which was a supporter-based platform that we incentivized you guys to, financially support us, and you got kickbacks and perks and extra episodes. And what we found was that it was just taking away a lot of time to
make this good. This is the kickback.
This is our real product that we want to get into the hands of people each week. And so we had to sort of discontinue that method of raising funds for the show. Many creators still use that format, but for us it was just taking too much time.
And they take a chunk too, but that's
True.
understandable.
That's true. So that being said, I would just love for you to consider, if you love the show, whether you are a new listener or a longtime listener, would you consider what that might look like for you for supporting this show? And I will just say thank you in advance, because I know some of y'all listening will rise to that call and that request. And so thank you in advance. And
share with your friends. We're still going to say that.
Yeah.
When you hear an episode that you love, or you think someone you love would love.
Yes.
Pass it on.
And I'll add one little thing in there. If you are a business owner or are in conjunction with a business that focuses on Southern products, would you consider sponsoring the show? We would love to entertain that as well. We don't have the manpower to go out and have a sales team hitting the road or hitting the pavement to gather sponsors and do a lot of that. Sometimes I churn up the time to do that, but it's also taxing as well. And so if you've got a brand or connection to a business that you think might be a good fit to sponsor the show, would you please get us in touch with them as well? Okay, it's not a pledge drive, so I will.
Well, I was just sitting here thinking, this would have been a good week, many weeks ago, I should have reached out to Allegiance Flag Company that makes flags. That would have been a great sponsor for this episode.
There's a lot of patriotic type of businesses, too. I'm thinking of there's that Old Glory Bank and, whatever. So some of y'all might have a business, though, that came to mind as a good fit. So hit us up with an email, get in touch with us. All of those methods to contact us will be in today's show description.
Well, we've had a lot of rain here, but this morning I got Old Glory back out and put her on the flagpole.
Did you?
I did. Well, I'm saying flagpole.
She's looking nice out there. Not whipped around like sometimes happens with flagpoles on a house.
Yeah, that does happen. I found these wonderful little hooks online that keep it straight. I don't know how to explain it. I can find them, and maybe we could put it in links in the show notes or something. I don't know, but
in our Decoration Day episode. Covertly sponsored by the hooks that keep the flag straight, right? Just kidding.
Well, it does make my life easier. It kept getting wrapped around, stuck on the gutter, all that. I'm like, let's just get these little hooks and make life easier.
Did you get them on Amazon?
I did.
Okay. I'll look at those after because I need to get a set of those too.
Well, Decoration Day.
It's upon us.
Yes, it is.
Because some of y'all are planning a 3-day weekend or already had plans to get out of town. What is Memorial Day, Decoration Day? What does that mean to you? Like when you think of it?
Well, not, you just mean in my own heart.
Yes.
Not like, what is that? Yeah.
No. Like what, when you hear, okay, Memorial Day's coming, or
I think of the wonderful people who take time to go put wreaths on our vets that have passed, gave their life for our country.
Yeah.
To be free.
Yeah.
And the wonderful people that'll take time to go do that, especially on people they don't know. To go fluff up your own families, that's wonderful too.
Yes.
But it's really cool to me, these groups that get together and go do wreaths.
Boy Scouts and
people they don't even know.
Yeah. I'm ashamed to admit that it is the kickoff to summer.
That's what it means to you.
I
don't like summer, so I don't want to kick it off.
That is true. You don't.
I like fall. I like spring. I don't like kicking off summer.
Yeah, it's the bookend with Labor Day, meaning we are starting summer and it will conclude at Labor Day. So I am free to wear white in the South. I'm wearing linen today. I've got linen pants on. School is over. That's another thing it means to me. Now, the school calendars have really gotten out of sync with one another across the country. So
with one another, and even with the rhythm they used to have. I laughed when Dad was talking about they had to go back to school after Labor Day because there was no air conditioning.
Yes.
And so that wasn't even an option.
It'd be miserable.
To be going back in August.
Yeah. Miserable in a schoolhouse crammed in with no thank you. Yeah, so I really feel like pretty shallow in terms of what, surface level, what it sort of means to me when I start to see Memorial Days coming on the calendar. I just think of time off from, maybe a 3-day weekend. Maybe that is a way that a lot of people plan a vacation. It's like, if you've got Monday off, then let's just take that week off.
Well, and you're bringing up a point that I actually have in my notes. It didn't always used to fall on a Monday.
True. That's true.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, now I've got to go back, the 30th of May.
Yes.
Whatever
always
day
May 30th.
That fell on.
Exactly.
But
that was from 1868 to 1970. It was observed on May 30th.
Isn't that funny
That's
to think about?
Long
and then
time.
The federal government was who changed it to be a Monday holiday so that it could be a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that to say there's people listening that might be all over the place in what they know about this tradition, what it means to them. But we just wanted to kind of get to the heart of it and share a little history.
Now, when I was in a cemetery not too long ago with 2 friends who are not from the South, I asked them if they knew about Decoration Day. And they were like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I thought Decoration Day was strictly a Southern thing.
Okay.
I think the South kept it going as called that longer. Because if you correct me here, was it 1971 when it went from being called Decoration Day to Memorial Day? Is that correct?
Yes. So now, since 1971, it moved then to being observed on the last Monday of May, whatever number date that is.
Okay, but when did it change to the name Memorial Day?
I have that the first official Decoration Day was May 30th, 1868. And then as time went on, Memorial Day began to overtake Decoration Day as the name of the holiday because of the focus being from Civil War to being after the two world wars. So for some reason, Decoration Day was associated with memorializing Civil War armed forces.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Which was more deaths than all of the prior combined.
Yes.
That's wild to think about, too.
Yes.
Because we were all Americans that were dying. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't... Yeah, we were killing each other.
Yes.
Terrible.
So, I think then the word memorial started to come in because we were memorializing multiple wars and multiple battles of fallen soldiers. Okay. So, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but...
Well, my point being, I remember it being called Decoration Day by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't remember prior to 1971. So it had to continue being called that by a lot of people.
Yes.
And these two gals I was asking, one from Illinois, one from Ohio, never had heard that.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, the Southerners must have kept calling it that.
Yeah.
For a while.
I came across a really interesting book that was called Decoration Day in the Mountains, Traditions of Cemetery Decoration in the Southern Appalachians. So I think, to your point, I think that there might be that subculture of Appalachian groups that are probably still keeping it alive.
And calling that.
And other groups. Like I read that, there's a pretty large base of people in Utah that still do like Decoration Day within the Mormon community. I don't really know anything about that, but there's always going to be a few other groups, but we probably have heard about it more because of being here in the South.
Appalachian relatives.
For sure.
Well.
Yeah.
Well, I did read that in Appalachia, it was actually way predates the Civil War, having Decoration Day.
So crazy, yeah.
And it wasn't a uniform date. It would be like this particular church had Decoration Day whenever they wanted to.
Okay, so that's...
Or this particular community had Decoration Day whenever they wanted to. It wasn't like a May holiday or something, but they called it Decoration Day.
And that's what I gathered was the focus from the book I just mentioned. Let me just read just like a very small description from that book. They said that Decoration Day was an occasion on which a family or a whole church congregation gathered on a Sunday. Okay. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense if it's going to be a whole church congregation.
Churches had cemeteries too.
True.
Own, you know what I mean?
So they gathered to place flowers on the graves of loved ones and hold a memorial service for them. So traditionally this involved singing, likely like sacred harp singing, which we haven't talked about on this podcast before because we have a whole episode coming one day about that. That's like shape note singing, if you've ever heard that term.
Christian harmony, some people call it. Yeah.
So singing, dinner on the grounds, as well as like an actual service.
Okay.
Outside. Probably, late spring, early summer is when, but like you said, it wasn't like an actual date that everybody was.
Well, that even makes sense because they would clean like the grime off of the tombstones and stuff, and it looks bad in the spring because there's been like winter leaves and molds and
it's been through it.
Just like
just like you start
your house.
Yeah, spring cleaning involving the cemetery as well. But yeah, I just thought it was so sweet that it oftentimes really held the characteristics of like an extended family reunion. People would come in and travel for this particular Decoration Day. And of course, like you said, give a good cleaning and decorate the graves and even like renew contacts with relatives, like a family reunion. Mm-hmm. Seeing, family or people that you grew up with that you haven't seen in a long time. So, and of course, who doesn't love dinner on the grounds?
Let's bring it back.
That's
all
right.
These wonderful traditions.
Which is basically a potluck, if you're not familiar with that term, on the grounds of usually a church.
Yes.
So, I'll put a link to that book in the show notes.
Yeah,
if you're
interested
in learning more about specifically like the Southern Appalachian traditions of Decoration Day.
Well, another thing I wanted to make sure we mentioned, well, I was saying, first of all, that they would clean off what would be done was you would clean.
Yes.
Probably weed a little bit.
Yeah.
Clean things off. And then often change out flowers or put a fresh wreath or something like that.
Yeah.
Is what would be done.
Yeah. Even
to the actual.
Like silk flowers. Like those get really
they
faded.
Get faded and icky looking.
Yeah, pitiful, really. I'm not sure what's worse, a faded silk flower or a dead real flower. They both have very sad. One has a smell to it, so
I'd take a dead real flower though over a don't have a little. Don't put silk flowers on if I have a tombstone. I don't really care where I put, but I don't want faded silk flowers on.
This is also
with my name on it.
This is reminding me that we did do an episode called "Southerners Throw the Best Funerals." So I'll link to that in our show notes as well if you're interested in knowing more about how we handle celebrations of life and end of life. Okay, sorry, I took you off course.
There's books about that. No, but a couple of things I wanted to say. One was the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day, because some people haven't made the distinction.
Nope. Tell us.
Memorial Day is for those who gave their life in service.
Yes.
To the armed forces, to the country.
They literally passed away. They died fighting, serving. Yes.
That is what Memorial Day is for. Veterans Day honors all veterans alive.
Yes.
I mean, really more the alive, because the dead are already celebrating, hopefully, with Jesus. But it's to honor all veterans.
Right. Which is why it makes for a great parade. Who doesn't love seeing men and women in their hats and with their buttons and their little handheld flags walking through the streets of a small town? If you haven't experienced that, I highly recommend it.
And let me tell you, these vets will often, especially from the older wars, you're going to see the hats of Korean War, Vietnam War, that kind of thing. We're seeing a lot less of
World
War II. Yes. But anyway, they are wearing that with pride, and I just think it's a great thing to thank people for their service.
Yes.
When they have that hat on.
Yes.
I think they're wanting to have they're showing their pride so a thank you is definitely due.
Yeah.
No matter where you fall on should we have been in Vietnam and all that.
Right.
Just thank these guys.
Because they might have fallen where you fell, where you currently fall.
Right.
That's
right.
So I know, that even makes me think it seems like the only sort of industry, now somebody listening is going to want to correct me, so please do.
Please do.
The only industry really that I openly hear honoring, having served or currently served armed forces really is the airline industry. They let
Lowe's is really, they do.
Okay.
I think 10% off any time you're there. You see that some.
Okay. And I guess what I mean is more than just a Veterans Day discount.
Every once in a while I'll see that, and I'll tell you, I'm a lover of museums. They'll often have a vet price that's kind of like a senior price.
Yeah, year-round.
Free.
That's true. Good. I wanted to stand corrected, so I think I'm
they'll have that year-round, usually. Not all of them, but I do see that on some. Yeah. So there's a few things out there. Let us know what else vets get honored, because they should. And there's also an Armed Forces Day, which I often see on the calendar, but
like pre-printed. You see that on the calendar?
Yeah, okay. I do, but I don't ever hear somebody like doing anything, like taking the day off, or we're going out of town because it's Armed Forces Day. Like, I don't ever hear that.
Do you know even when it falls? I don't.
So in my notes, it just says earlier in May.
Okay.
So, and it's for those who served or are served. Let's see, what do I have here? Armed Forces, an official U.S. holiday for honoring those currently serving.
Okay.
So there's your distinction. Vets.
Previously served. Still living.
Right.
And past.
Armed Forces currently serving. Memorial Day gave their life.
Okay.
Serving.
Maybe I'll do a little grid on Instagram. little post to show some of these
Distinctions, yes.
You can sound so smart at your Memorial Day cookout when you start rattling off some of these facts. If you're grilling out, my next door neighbor only grills out on 2 days a year: Memorial Day and the 4th of July.
Oh, and 4th of July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charcoal grill. I mean,
Fires it up.
9 a.m. on both of those days.
Love it.
2 times a year. That's it. That is literally it.
Well, charcoal grilling should happen more than twice a year, in my opinion, but that's wonderful that he's consistent and has tradition in his life. Well, when you were talking about people that honor vets, it brought to mind, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it did bring to mind, being that we're here in Nashville, country music stands firm in their patriotism.
That is true.
Do they not? Like, you just hear so many.
That's true. You even hear that sometimes. It's at the Grand Ole Opry. They'll take a moment, if you're familiar with that format, there's like almost commercial breaks that they take because it is on the radio. And at certain points in the program, they might stop to honor and, just applaud, really. Like, please stand if you have served or are serving in the armed forces.
That's cool.
Not just on
Memorial
any
Day
of these days. Yeah.
Well, obviously not on, excuse me, on Veterans Day is what I meant to say. I just made my own. See, if it's Memorial Day and they're asking them to stand, that's a whole nother.
They probably get around. Yeah, that's weird. They get around that too, probably, and don't mix it up, because if it's always on Monday, then there's no Grand Ole Opry on Monday nights.
Oh, well.
So there's another reason why
they got to do it all the time.
They got to do it all the time. Yeah. Okay. What else is important, you think, for people to know about this?
I was also reminded, because I had forgotten this. I did know this, but I had forgotten as I was doing my research, that Arlington National Cemetery was actually established on May 13th, 1864.
Okay.
And that was, obviously for military, but that was right, in the Civil War time.
Right.
So
that's weird to think about.
I hadn't put that. I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but that even was, I'm sure, integral in the having a holiday.
Yeah.
Where we honor.
Yeah.
The graves, because there was this new big, being filled quickly military cemetery happening.
Red, white, and blue flowers are a thing too.
Oh, yeah.
Like you will
or
see
a wreath
it
where
actually come in
Yeah.
through the arrangements and the actual decorations, the patriotism that people try and show as well.
Or they'll put little flags. I took I don't even remember how many of those small flags when I went over to France to the American Cemetery in Normandy. I was with a group and I gave all the kids, I'm saying kids, I mean, there were some of them teenagers. And I was like, just however you want to, let's honor some of these people that don't have one already on their grave. However you want to pick it. I'm going to go find people from Tennessee, but whatever you want to do. Yeah. And it was really cool to walk around and find Tennesseans.
That's so cool. Gosh, Normandy's celebrating
80th anniversary of D-Day will be June 6th.
Your birthday. Not your birth year, but your birthday.
Yeah. Well, I love honoring military. I love our flag. I've actually had a really difficult time in the protests that I see happening on campuses and in our streets. I know this is not a perfect country. I know there's a lot wrong, but we're the finest country in the world, and it just hurts my heart.
It's hard to see the flag dishonored and burned and
stomped on and whatever. That is not okay. And I don't know, even I don't want to, I just think people need to travel more if they think some other
to come home and realize how good it is here.
That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm also very saddened that people don't esteem the military like they used to. I find it so fascinating that in World War II, probably Civil War, probably all of them before World War II, people were lying about their age to go and fight.
Right? Yes.
And now people are finding all kinds of reasons to get out
of it.
And I don't know what we do to turn that around, but
I don't either.
There is such an amazing pride that should be had in standing up for this country that was, built on good values, I believe. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying perfect, but I think chew on all that is good about our country and not zero in on all that is bad.
Yeah. I'll try and find if there are links to groups that are doing outings for decorating.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not involved in a place where you know of that of your own, I'm not sure if I'll be able to find much, but I would start with sort of the groups that might feel obvious, a Girl Scout or Boy Scout group, civic groups.
Yeah, Rotary clubs and things like that.
Yeah.
Probably could be a good place to start.
Yeah. If you're wanting to be involved in that way. If you've never done it.
Gather your own kids and nieces and nephews and godchildren and just go to the nearest one and do a little cleaning and
that's right.
Honoring.
Well, happy Decoration Day week.
Yeah.
You can surprise somebody by greeting them in that way.
Happy Decoration Day.
See what kind of look you get at Lowe's even to say
might
Happy Decoration Day. And we do hope that y'all have a great week, especially if you're going to get some time off. I hope it's restful, relaxful, and peaceful.
And full of good charcoal smoke.
Yeah, that's right.
You cook.
May your burgers be well done. Just kidding. All right, y'all have a good one. We'll be back here next week with more good Southern culture.
Peace be with you while you decorate. You've just listened to an episode of the Steel Magnolias Podcast, an independent show funded solely on support from listeners like you and a few advertisers from time to time. For reminders of what we just said and links to what we just mentioned, take a look at the description of this episode. They are right there. Are you enjoying the show? We hope you'll text a friend or a loved one to tell them about the podcast. Make sure they know how to get to a podcast first. And we invite you to join our mailing list to be the first to know about episodes, giveaways, events, and even those gatherings. Sign up at steelmagnoliaspodcast.com.